This is Dave's chat with Jim Haughey, who does community work for the Vale Baptist Church in Cornwall. I know Jim because he's a fellow volunteer at the Cornwall Food Bank, where he's a great help. He's there most weeks that I am, or I'm there most weeks that he is, because I'm not a regular there. And he's got a keen interest in the community and what makes a community work. He is obviously a religious person, but he's not one to shove that down the throats of those who aren't. And he's an interesting guy.
We're sitting in a lovely room in Vale Baptist Church in Cornwall with Jim Haughey, who works with Viv, or volunteers with Viv at a local food bank. So Jim, tell us what your role is here. You're not a minister or anything, are you?
No. Well, I've been a member of the church for probably about 28 years. Mm-hmm. I joined this church when I met my wife because this was her church, and we got married here. And this, I used to go to Broomfield Church, but I decided this would become my church. Mm-hmm. I've been here 28 years, as I say. I've been a deacon of the church, probably for nearly that length of time, probably a couple of years after I became a deacon. That's just part of, a deacon is just part of the leadership team. Mm. But about, I don't know, maybe about 7 years ago, our minister retired. Yeah. And obviously we needed another minister. So we all decided as a church to have an away day. Where we sort of like go to a different location, mm-hmm. and we had somebody to sort of get it all together and everything. It was somebody from the Baptist Union, I think, and the idea was that we would be praying and seeking guidance for a new minister. But it was quite an incredible day because we ended up something totally different happened.
Oh yeah.
We had a sense, well I definitely had a sense, that God was saying, why are you even bothering? You know, at the moment, you're not much more than a social club. You meet on a Sunday, and apart from a coffee morning, you don't really do anything for the community. At that point, we must have been about 15 of us. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was probably one of the youngest. And it really sort of like challenged me. And after that, I came away and I was praying and I started getting lots of ideas about all these different things that we could possibly do.
Go on.
I even started decorating the building in preparation, a bit like Noah and the Ark. I felt like I was getting something ready, but really not knowing what I was getting it ready for.
You worry me a bit with the talk of Noah and the Ark, with the amount of rain we get in this valley.
Yeah, but and I think even people in the church thought I was going a bit crazy because I was spending lots of time like that doing things. Mm-hmm. But sure enough, we started coming up with different ideas. And a friend of mine, he has a saying: if you want more sheep, then you should grow grass. Now, what he meant by that is if we want to draw people into the building, we need to be able to provide things for them. And one of the things I'm certainly aware of is Cornwall is the place that seems to get forgotten.
Yes.
You know, if you want to do things, you have to go somewhere else to do it. So I think one of the first things we started was that we did dog training.
Dog training?
Yeah, we had dog training classes. The very first thing I started was men's breakfast. I have a history of depression myself, and I'm also a qualified counsellor, and I just know the importance of men having somewhere to come and talk, offload or whatever. So about 6 years ago, I set up a men's breakfast, and
is that weekly?
You started off the first and third Saturday of the month. Mm-hmm. It's non-religious, people just come along, and the main thing is eat a bacon butty or vegetarian alternative. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing the different conversations that we have. In fact, I remember probably the second meeting we had, one of the guys, and I noticed that his eyebrows looked a bit different. I said, "Oh, Jake, have you done something with your eyebrows?" He said, I've had them shaped and tinted. And then John, one of the deacons of our church, he pipes in, I thought this were a men's breakfast. Should we not be talking about football and rugby? And I said, no, this is a men's breakfast, and we talk about whatever we want to talk about. And we do. And
Yes.
we do. And what's lovely about it is, over the years, I've probably had contact with at least 70 odd men who've sort of like come for a time. And the age span's been amazing as well. At the moment, I've got a 17-year-old, possibly we've got one 17-year-old at the moment who comes and helps, and his friend came last week for the first time, and hopefully he's going to join in as well. And our oldest one is 91, I think. And also a lot of variation in their sort of like background. We've got a few that have been teachers, factory workers, some are employed. And what's really good about it is not many of them are churchgoers.
That really is the church being part of the community.
Yeah. In fact, one of our friends, my friend Ian, he was one of the first men to come along, and he'll still tell the same story, that it was one of the best things that happened to him, because as a result of coming to our men's breakfast, he got to know different people, and he got into connection with other things. And for me, that's what it's about, really.
Now, as a counsellor, you'll know about the importance of social and community life in terms of mental health as well as physical health.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because the best way to break down isolation is to go and talk to people.
Absolutely,
whether it's about football, rugby, or the state of your eyebrows.
Well,
it's immaterial.
Absolutely, and I think it would be a couple of years ago now. It just so happened we had 3 different men that had either been through or going through prostate cancer and treatment and stuff like that, and it was just a really good, safe place to talk and to support one another.
That's important as well, because a lot of the publicity recently has been about men not talking about something they think is embarrassing.
Yeah.
When it's there's all kinds of things you can be embarrassed about, but looking after your health is nothing to be embarrassed about.
No. And as a counsellor, I spend a lot of time in the kitchen making the bacon butties and that sort of stuff. But then when I sit down, I suppose my other role is, I never really switch off as being a counsellor, because I do watch out for people, and if I feel that there's somebody who's not really contributed into the conversation, I sort of like push them a little bit, or maybe have a quiet word, or that sort of thing. So I'm inadvertently sort of like watching out for people as well.
Yeah. So the important thing is, as you've implied, they're not church, or not all churchgoers.
No.
So if you turn up to the men's breakfast, you're not going to be preached at.
No, definitely not.
You're not going to be cajoled into going to church next Sunday or anything like that. And if you're a bit quiet, you won't be forced into conversations, presumably, but
absolutely not.
Someone will make sure that there's opportunities to join in with chats about things.
It's quite interesting though, but the subject of God will come up, but it's usually one of the non-believers.
Yeah.
And then that's fine, because it's also a good place to ask questions. But it's never ever sort of like thrown down, anybody's throat, because that's not what I've learned. Another of my titles is one of my titles. I'm like the church evangelist. I actually get paid for doing that. I get for 20 hours a week. My job title is church evangelist. And I'm sure you know what that means, to go and share the good news of Jesus. But what I've learned in my 30 years of being a Christian is that, words are all right, if really necessary, but the best way of evangelising, I find, is through my actions.
Absolutely.
And that's why I see myself, yes, I'm the church evangelist, but I see myself as a community worker. That's why, for example, I get involved with the church, with the food bank. I help out a couple of times a week, and I do the food bank shop and stuff like that. But it's just a great opportunity to mix with people. And the other things that we do during the week, so we've mentioned the men's breakfast. Yeah. We have a parent toddlers group that's been running for about 6 years. That's very active. I've lost count of the kids that we've had through there. In fact, some of the kids who came as toddlers and now coming to our youth group on a Friday.
Right.
Which is wonderful.
In a few years' time, they'll be bringing their children.
Yeah, no, that would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice. You know, but parent toddlers group, it's just a great place. To building relationships with people and stuff. Again, it's not a religious thing, but it's interesting. Maybe it's because it's in a church. Maybe it's because they see stuff around that is God related. But quite often we find that people come and talk about the problems, and we actually have a little prayer board, and people actually use that.
Yeah.
You know, but again, it's not something that's pushed. It's something that's available if people do seem to want that.
So you call it a parent group. Is it mainly women?
It is, but we fortunately, I think on Thursday we had two dads.
Good.
And a few grandparents.
Yeah.
But I think over probably all the time I've been doing it, we probably had about 10 men.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Whatever anybody thinks about sort of male and female roles, it's generally the women who bring the children.
Yeah.
Or put a lot of efforts and time into bringing the children up, and there's plenty of social and economic reasons for that. But the reason I was asking really is that must play a similar role for women as the men's breakfast plays for men.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, it's quite good to see mums supporting one another, or sometimes they'll come to us and like offload a little bit about stuff, and it's very good.
Right, so you've got various activities, but you mentioned the youth group as well.
Yeah. The youth group it's been running for about 3-4 years here. But over the last year or so, I think it was summer, we had a bit of a change in that we had more people from our church who were younger and willing to be youth leaders, so they got involved with it, and the focus has changed a little bit more in that yes, it's youth church, but it's more, I would say, about building relationships with the kids. We have a God slot, about 10 minutes. But mainly it's about, I mean, as you came through, we've got table tennis, football, and all sorts of different
Just
games.
looked like a youth club to me. I used to work in youth clubs a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it just looked like a youth club.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, these kids who are coming, some of the kids are the ones who, if they weren't here, they'd be up to all sorts of mischief. You know, in the town and what have you. But some of them, without naming any names, they've been coming here for a couple of years now to different things, and I've just seen a difference in them really. And I think for us, it's about building relationship. And I'm not lying; it's hard work.
Yes,
it is hard work.
Oh yes, it would be, because don't take this wrong, but grey-haired old bloke is not the first place that teenagers flock to for advice.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that, the grey-haired old bloke here as well. Yeah. So there's this of age differences and what have you to get over.
Am I allowed to disagree with you?
Go on, by all means. It's your voice we're interested in.
Yeah, no, because going back quite a few years ago, I was involved with a youth caravan we used to tack onto the marketplace in the centre of Todd. I used to tow on the back of my car and we'd drive it, and my volunteers were mainly pensioners.
Right.
And you know what? The young people loved it because they had time for them. And I'm now one of them old people. I'm like 63, and compared to my other leads, I've got a couple of 21-year-olds, and I think, let's face it, a lot of kids maybe you're losing maybe see as grandparent roles, that sort of thing. I don't know.
Yes, maybe you go through the sort of age I was implying.
Yes,
perhaps,
yeah. I mentioned about the youth group. I said that we'd have like a God slot, about 10 minutes, but so quite often included in that conversation is guidelines for living, really. You know, in relation to bullying, and also we cover all sorts of topics. And I myself have a real soft spot for young people, because I used to be one once. And I mean, my child wasn't particularly good. My childhood wasn't particularly good. And I remember as an 11-year-old feeling so desperate about stuff that I actually took an overdose of tablets. I just felt like I had nobody to talk to. And I think that, for me, that's what's so important about these kids, having somebody who can come and talk. And we have recently had a young lad who's going through something, and I just felt so privileged, really, that he felt able to come and talk to us about that issue, and we'll support him in it as we sort of like go along. But it's just another resource for the youth.
It's another example of what churches, chapels, mosques, temples and what have you are for. People who don't go to any of them often think, oh, it's just about God, isn't it? You know, and they all disagree about who or what God is and how many there are and things like that. But all of those places, in my experience, are doing so much more than that. Yeah, and you've got and you've got quite a lot going on in here. And, you know, we downstairs, we came through what looked like a playgroup room. Presumably where the parents'
last night it was.
You must have to clear all that.
Last night it was a gym. Last night, well, not a gym, but we do a community exercise group on a Monday. We do Tai Chi on a Thursday. I mean, we do have prayer meetings and things like that. And as a Christian, I honestly would say that the reason why this church is so successful and I believe such an asset is to the community is because it's built on prayer, and that's what I believe. You know.
Yes, no, it's just fair enough. I mean, I'm more coming from the community work side of it. That's a lot of the work I've done is community work, and I'm aware, therefore, the role that church buildings play in their communities. So, I mean, because there doesn't, you tell me, is there a lot else going on in Cornholm?
It doesn't really seem to be. We did yoga here for a while, and then for different reasons the class stopped here, and it was moved to the library. But I was a bit instrumental in that, really, because one, was so busy here, but I also think it's important that the library gets used.
Yes.
You know, it's being used at the moment as a food bank, and it's also being used as a yoga on a Monday. And I also think that the Lionesses of the Valley, how it came about actually was, Rebecca would say this, a lady called Rebecca, I know her through Roomfield Church, and she contacted me a while ago. I put a post on Facebook about the men's breakfast, and she put something on, why isn't there anything for women? And I just said to her, so we've got a space if you want to run it, but obviously we didn't have the room, but we worked out even better because they decided to run it at the old library, and it also runs at Roomfield Church now, and so they've got, that's on a Thursday, And I'm hopeful. I mean, I attended a meeting recently at St Michael's Church, which is
the Anglican Church.
Yeah, apart from I think they meet on a Wednesday for communion. Apart from that, that they aren't really doing anything. But I think there is a hope that possibly they could start using the building again, and that would be great. You know, we definitely need more stuff up here.
Absolutely, and church buildings can be ideal. It's a big space. Originally built to get lots of people in anyway, and they can be great community hubs.
Yeah.
So, probably on the way to being done now.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that I should be aware of about the church, activities you do, or Corn Home?
I've to pick up really on something that you said. This is more on a personal level, but it was interesting. Quite a few times you talked about religious things, about. But and it's interesting because quite often people say to me, "I'm not religious," and I shock them by saying, "Neither am I." And they look at me and they think, "What do you mean you go to church?" And I said, "Well, I don't think religion to me talks all about rules and regulations. You must do that and you must do this." And that's certainly my memory of being a Catholic. And I'm not condemning the Catholic, I really aren't. But that's my memory as a child. But it wasn't until things went horribly wrong in my life, 30 years ago, when my wife left me, Christmas Day of all days.
Happy Christmas.
Yeah. When I actually seriously contemplated ending my life, but because of my Catholic upbringing, I didn't want to go to hell. So I just, for the first time, I cried out, "God help me," and from then on, He's been helping me ever since. But the difference now is, I believe that I have a personal relationship with Jesus, and it's not about religion, and so quite often, it's like only a couple of days ago, I had a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses come knocking on the door, and I love listening about other people's faith. I really do, and it's not my place to judge. I believe that I found the truth. They believe they found the truth. So what is not my place to judge them? As hopefully they won't judge me. Because I believe that we're all spiritual beings looking out for something. And quite often I'll end conversation. If I'm having a conversation with somebody of a different faith, I'll just say to myself, "Look, we're all spiritual beings. We're all looking for something. We all want the truth. Unfortunately, there's some stuff out there that isn't true. So how about we pray and we ask God to give us the truth and get rid of the rubbish?" And nobody's ever said no to that. I prayed with a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses the other day. I prayed with Mormons, and in fact we have a Muslim guy who's joined our church now. He's converted from Muslim to Christianity. But for me it's all about relationship.
Same God. And people are surprised when they find out the significant role Jesus plays in Islam.
Yeah.
He's not quite up there as the Son of God.
No.
He's part way up the ladder. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks a lot, Jim. That was a really interesting chat.
Thank you.
Now, if people want to get involved in the parent toddler, the men's breakfast, the youth club, anything else, what do? They just turn up? Is there a website or Facebook page or what?
They can look up for Facebook, Vale Baptist Church, and there's stuff on there. We have a website as well.
Yeah. Yes. And if people want to know which one it is, if you're coming in to Corn Home from Todmorden, it's the first church you see on the left, and there's usually a big banner saying something appropriate at the time. Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and well done.